Nice. All right. Hopefully we're good here. I tweaked some of my camera settings. Maybe it looks a little choppy, but seems decent. I don't know. Yeah. Yeah, totally fine. All right. So, kind of getting started a little bit slower here today. And I'm going to get my French easel set up. Good spot for my reference here. Cool. I'm recording you so that I can tell everybody on my Instagram that I'm live. Cool. All right, I don't see anything in the chat. Looks good. So I don't really know where I'm going with this. I feel like I had some good thoughts, and now those good thoughts are kind of all over the place. I kind of want to focus on the fidelity of the foreground before I start doing more on the layer in the back. Yeah. I kind of mixed this as my like rocky color, which I immediately forgot what I did for that. So that's okay. It's not a huge deal. We're still fairly early in this painting. I think I used like alizarin crimson and a couple of different yellows. It's been probably like 3 days since I painted it all. So I've got a lot of paint that needs scraping. Kind of a thing that I've fallen off of in the past few weeks is reducing friction in my artistic environment. I understand how important it is. I think in a lot of scenarios you really have to be well established with your setup, and you have to build familiarity with your setup. And often what that means is that you have to devote a lot of time to cleaning and doing the uncomfortable steps first. I've been kind of off that lately. All right, that's good enough. This is not quite dark enough for what I was thinking. I think I'm going to add some specks of color and then go over it with like a Naples yellow wash. That's kind of what I'm thinking. Anybody in the chat? Nope. How's this cadmium paint? It's pretty old. Cool. I'm just going to check real quick, make sure that I am actually live here, because I'm doing so many different new things with YouTube. I think I'm live. Yeah, totally. Cool. Hmm. Yeah, that's gonna work. Okay. So what I'm planning on doing now is kind of a weird, uh, requires some amount of speed in that I like to do this kind of wet on wet thing where a lot of times I'll put down some paint and then scrape some paint over it, and you get like a really interesting tracer as it comes through the paint later. So we're gonna start over here, see about the proof of concept, how much I love it or hate it, and if it's disgusting, then we'll move on. Sort of revisit. Okay, we're gonna start there. I think actually maybe I'll use the rest of this paint that I have. And yeah, so we'll come down into right about here. I think that'll be like about the point that I stop for the first pass. Okay. What do we got? What's up? What's up, London? Thanks so much. Yeah, it's getting there. It's definitely a at that weird intermediate stage where I feel like I look at it and I go, ugh. But that's just kind of how a lot of art and painting goes. Can't stress about that stage too much. Okay, so let's get some light red. Light red, you can go over here. How's it going for you today? What are you up to? Today's Friday and very cloudy and kind of rainy here in Phoenix. Okay, how do we feel about this? I think this is going to be good. Oh, yeah, yeah. This is my favorite part. This is my second favorite part. About oil painting is really fun because you get to mix colors, you get to smack a bunch of paint around, and then you get to take a lot of time zoning into the fold. Yeah. Let's re-up on this. I need to think about my values just a smidge here. I do feel like I actually need to add a touch of white to this, just like at the tiniest amount. We're kind of doing like a silent disco today because I don't want to get like a YouTube unlisting my video because I'm playing music, which is lame, but you know, really good. We have rainy weather 2 in Vegas. Nice. That's cool. Wedding sounds great. Yeah, I guess the whole Southwest probably get rains kind of around the same time, right? Maybe that's not true. That's cool though. I hope you have a good time at your wedding. I was just in Utah not that long ago. Just driving. Whatever I'm doing here is turning out, it's a lot rockier. I think I'm gonna have to go back over and add some rocks to this. It's kind of giving this implication that it's peppered in with a lot more of these darks, which is kind of fun, but not necessarily what I was going for. But we adapt, you know? It's already getting this like very grassy sensation, which is really cool. Okay. Got like a loose line where I can start adding some red in here. Yeah. What else do we got? First time in Utah, raining. Nice. Well, I mean, I think the rain, I mean, you're familiar being in Vegas, but the rain in the desert is like a really special thing. So it's kind of unique in each different spot. We have a lot of creosote here, like in Vegas. So the rain, it like has a unique smell to it, which I really like. So is this painting of a random landscape or some please took a picture of? I actually did, I really wish I could make this font bigger. Hold on. I'm like really straining my eyes to even, I don't think it's possible. Anyway. Yeah, I actually took a photo of this. This is a scene that I took a photo of in Idaho. So I first started when I left my job to do painting full time. I went on this road trip from San Francisco up to Seattle and then over to Montana and then down through Idaho. And I took this photo there. So working on this painting, it's a commission piece. I've been kind of like slow to getting going on this, but I'm excited to work on it now. What brought you into training? How many years have you worked out? Thanks. I have a lot of thoughts about training. Kind of the other thing that I like to do a lot outside of painting. And I first started training when I was like 18. I was in college. I gotta skip this. Too many lyrics. Yeah. So I first started training when I was 18. I went to ASU and I started going to the gym here and there. So I've been training now for like over a decade. And I think what got me into it, I've had a lot of different motivations, and I think that's a natural thing or a natural path. I always joke about the evolution of a gym bro. It's like you first start lifting to get women, if you're straight, and then you start lifting to be impressive, and you're like, oh yeah, like okay, I've got muscles. Now I want to just have muscles and like lift weights and be impressive when I'm at the gym. And then that kind of fades quickly, and you start lifting for more holistic reasons where you're internally motivated. You know that when you go to the gym, you feel better. So it's kind of this interesting path where just naturally you can start lifting for any reason, and then eventually you'll start to pick up on the actual like holistic benefits, the holistic wellness aspect of it. But I think it's really hard necessarily to force yourself into training and being healthy. Like it's an interesting thing because when I got certified to do personal training in the NASM cert, they talk a lot about that where they're like, oh yeah, people like you should stress the importance of exercise and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, yeah, but like a lot of people just want to look good. Like everybody has a different motivation. I think eventually you get tied into the intrinsic motivation where it feels good and you go because you're like, if I don't go, my mental health will suffer, and like pay attention to that. Like absolutely do that. But you can't like advertise those benefits right away because they're true, they're present, but they're not like the main thing that people actually it's not the main pain point that most people feel, I would say. So anyway, I've had a long, diverse career of coming and going in and out of those different motivations because I think they all apply in different scenarios. Some days I am lifting because I'm like, yeah, I want to be jacked and I want to look jacked, but like that's not the main impetus for working out for me anymore. But I think you should choose literally any reason that you want. Don't let people shun you for that reason. It's common that people are like, oh, you should work out for yourself. Yeah, I agree, but like, you know, that's not realistic. So, yeah, happy to answer any other training questions. I have been working really hard on making some documents that are based around exercise adherence and like building familiarity with exercise and like getting into it. How is this? Okay, I have to think about this a little bit more. Yes. Yeah, so I think like there are a lot of strategies that people can take. My favorite is to build like an exercise identity as your primary vehicle for fitness adherence. And what that means to me is that you start to like more readily say things like, oh, I like exercising for the sake of it, which isn't always necessarily true right away. That's not like the natural. It is foreign to a lot of people. So you can really like fake it till you make it and like trick your brain into thinking that kind of thing. But yeah. Anyway, do you have artist names in mind who influenced you most? Yeah, I really like Cezanne and Picasso as like my top two artists. Goodbye paint. I would say that Picasso, his just trajectory and the fact that he was so stellar at what he was doing, so goated right away, and then said, I don't give a shit. And he was just like, I'm going to do whatever I want. That is like the goal. You know, you get to the point where you just have your artistic vision and you say, I don't really care about how I'm necessarily perceived. I think that's really cool. Cezanne, obviously, he was revolutionary in a lot of his applications for Impressionism. All of his work, you look at it and you're just shocked. So, and then I have a lot of modern influences. Right now, I think like my very favorite painter who is alive right now, I don't know how to actually say his name correctly. I think it's Sergio Chiocina, but I could be totally butchering that. He goes by Landscape Sergi on Instagram, which again, I'm not totally confident on it. But yeah, his stuff is incredible. He paints this like really interesting. It's like impressions of the Parisian street and parks and like all this stuff in Paris, and it's wonderful. It's truly wonderful work. Yeah, he's really prolific. All of his stuff is super cool. So kind of always taking inspiration from him. Okay, I'm not totally confident that I want too much of a texture differential here, but this is like a lot more dirt than it is grass right here. So I'm going to be a little bit more crude with this. I don't really know that I'm going to do this grass texture like the entire way through. I kind of think I might have to stop like around here and then pivot into the background. Well, actually, so there's grass. There's a lot of notable texture right here and then up through this one. So we'll do that. We'll go fairly textured until we hit these 2 points. And then everything else is going to be like a little bit less texture. Yeah. Yeah, and I've been thinking a lot about different content styles and stuff like that lately. That's kind of been on my mind more than painting lately. Like I said, I'm working on this fitness product which I just released. So if you're curious about that, please hit me up. Still trying to make more fitness guides and things that are useful. So if you have any pain points for your fitness and you're like, I really need help doing this, then like let me know. I want to help you out with that. But that being said, I've been thinking a lot about social media as another kind of like focus of my life lately, because I've sort of had like a content reassessment to try to understand some of the algorithm and some of the way that you can kind of spread your work. And I think I've been doing a lot too much to confuse the algorithm with some of my stuff. Do I want this down more? What if that was red? Am I going to be happy about that? No, I think I want the red to be a little bit more sparing. Let's pivot. Let's go back here to some Naples yellow. Yeah, so I've kind of thought lately that I think I'm confusing some of the social media algorithms. It could just be ultimately that I don't post enough. It could be a lot of different things. It could be that my videos are boring. It could be that, and like again, not trying to like put too much stock or make this like a stressful thing. I think content creation should be fun, but I am trying to find ways that I can better spread my art, better spread my fitness thoughts. And so I've really been focused on trying to understand how some of the stuff with the algorithm works and how to not be so all over the place. Because I think in social media in particular, it's like one of these things where you kind of have to figure out what works and then stick to that. And I think I did that for a minute on TikTok, where I was posting like me flexing by my art, and it was like great, getting views, but like it wasn't really doing that much for me. So yeah, cool. Anyway, today I'm going to be talking with a guy about some of my marketing and some of that strategy, which I think will go well. Definitely, I feel still pretty like novice with all that stuff, so but yeah, my like recent thought is that I don't think there's enough meaningful overlap right away for the content that I make regarding fitness and art. I think it should be apparent and present in my videos, whichever way that I'm making and framing a video. So if I'm making fitness content, I want it to be artistic and have an artistic thread, and vice versa. If I'm making art content, I think incorporating that fitness thread is also essential. But I think I've been trying to, I don't know. It's confusing based on kind of what I've read and learned about how some of the algorithm stuff works, which again, I don't want to put myself into a box. Take the whole Picasso thought about being like, you just kind of do whatever you do and it works and great, you're balling. But I think a lot of people, if they come and they follow me for fitness, like if I make a video just about fitness and then I make a video about art, they probably don't engage with it as much. And so that kind of tanks my ability to get further reach as I continue onward. So I don't know how much it actually matters. But I know that for me, it would really mean the difference if I was, okay, here's that wet on wet. There we go. If I was able to make a video about like, say like, okay, I've got prints, or I've got now postcards, or any of these other things that I make, if I got better reach, I do think my stuff would do really well. So trying to find the best way to not optimize for reach, but just not shoot myself in the foot for reach. I don't know. It's a learning experience for sure. I feel like I'm still kind of on this path where I don't really know what I'm doing, but it'll get there eventually. Okay, that's a little muddy. Let's see. move this back a little bit. Okay. So I want to have an interesting line here. I think I've done a decent job. I think I actually need to cut out. Which way do I need to cut? Making my line here, cutting out downward. Yeah, I've got to go down. Let's do that. Oh, paper towel monster. Okay. Any other chat? Nope, nothing yet. Oh, we got to one. Got one live. Seem like a person with a structured mindset. Am I wrong? Does this type of thinking hinder your creativity? How do you cope with it? That's an interesting thought. I would say that I am pretty structured. I used to be a software engineer, so I think I have a lot of like that rigid mindset around things. But I think at the same time, I wouldn't say that it hinders my creativity. What's the way to describe that? Like I will say that I'm gonna get more coffee while I riff on this. My creativity, I don't think is necessarily intertwined. I try to I think I have a good amount of separation or like compartmentalization between the two. And yeah, I don't think it like hinders the creativity. I think it can hinder like overall progress in the sense that if you start to like over optimize. But that's kind of one of the things, one of the philosophies that I try to approach things with is like be smart, work on the right thing. But it's fine, you know, like you have to let loose, especially when you're painting or working in fitness. You can't be like some people, you see their approach and it's like you don't need to be a data geek about it. Like no harm on being super structured, but like there's a lot of like science-based lifting and like super methodological approaches to painting. I don't really subscribe to that. I think that like learn techniques, do the right thing, absolutely. But you have to connect with your body first and foremost rather than trying to see, like I think body awareness is truly the key to creativity. I think as long as you keep that at the forefront of things, great. And that's, for me, that's when it comes down to the essential work of what I'm doing. What is it that I'm actually creating? Fitness products, art, any of this stuff. Content in some cases, yeah. But I think you still need to understand how to strategically, I think like marketing and all these other things, I don't have a creative mind for that, and I'm okay letting that be more of a structured thing. So I think it really does depend on what it is that I'm working on and like which domain, if that makes sense. So, all right. Very cool. How are we looking? I think it's essential every now and then to take just a step back and be like, what have I done here? Am I satisfied with the direction that I'm moving? I think the answer is yes on that, on the whole. Kind of like trying to imply that there's this ridge here, because there sort of is like an interesting line. Yeah, that comes across, I think. But is it implied by form or by color? Kind of both. Kind of both, and that's mostly what we're going for. I don't use a lot of lines in my painting. Yeah, cool. So again, I think we can get this grassy texture. I'm going to start going more up rather than right. More up until we get to about... This, I made this section too big. This section is a chunk and it doesn't make any sense. The perspective is whack, but... what can you do? Let's get a little bit more white in here. Do you notice a difference in engagement between some of your other art videos and your art reveal videos? I think the art reveal videos are a great way for others to find your work. Yes, so I have been in the weeds trying to understand engagement, and it's tough because I'm simultaneously trying to straddle the line of like understanding engagement so that I can prioritize making the right thing that resonates with people, while at the same time strategically applying it to what I want to be doing. And I get a lot of engagement when I make, like I was looking at my old videos, and when I make just a video, it's like a sweeping shot of me being like, yeah, and then there's a painting and like that kind of thing. I get like good views, I get decent engagement. Great. Art reveal videos, I've just started doing those. I really haven't done that in the past. I like to like talk about the video a lot more than just doing a reveal, but those don't get that great of engagement. And I think, again, I have to wonder if it's because, like, if I post a video talking about fitness and then immediately I'm like, this is why I made this painting, people are going to be like, eh. So it's kind of what I want to be doing. I don't love the art reveal style. I think it is great because it does get you views and you do get more people seeing your work because it's a very easy way to consume art, which I think is excellent. We need more of that. We need more easy ways to consume art. So I don't feel like I have enough data on that yet to really understand. Not gonna lie. Yeah, I'd be curious to hear your thoughts on it. Like if you have stuff that you like seeing the most. I did just post on my Patreon about that, trying to like get a loose understanding of like which of the things that I post are generally the most, not necessarily the most engaging, but like, yeah, like what do people want to see? Because I do think that there is something as well to just kind of like going for the whole flex and paint thing and being like, I'm just doing flex and paint, it gets views, and then that funnels people into me talking about the stuff that I want to talk about. Because it's not like I don't like making flex and paint videos. I certainly do. It's just a question of like, will that eventually help me make rent? Like, I don't know. Kind of one of those things that like you might get a lot of views and you might have stuff that does super well, but if it's not actually helping you sell paintings or sell training or anything like that, then it's kind of like, well, is that actually what you want to be prioritizing? Kind of hard to say. So okay, this is going to come together. It is going to take a lot of zoning in, which is good. Okay, I've got some dark bits. This is actually a pretty dark Naples yellow chunk right here, so let's darken that down just a smidge. Take some of my Naples. Yes. Gotcha. Yeah. I don't know. I really wish I understood it. I wish that's like the hardest thing about making content is so I joined this group. I joined this group, and in the group they talk a lot about it's like made for making content, like content creators, and they talk about kind of like experimenting until you find what works. And I think I have obviously my niche of like trying to do fitness and art stuff. And let's see a little tiny amount of this dark paint. That's too much. I think it's essential to experiment with what works and find like what people resonate with. And I'm trying to understand that you can't actually like your experimentations kind of need to be long running. You can't post like one video that's like an art reveal and then post one video that's like you talking about your artistic process and then post one video. Like you can't just jump around too much, otherwise you're not going to actually give it enough time to understand what does work. So yeah, I don't know, I'm kind of trying to just be like, let's just let it evolve organically, make some stuff that I think is compelling. Not quite. And at the same time, don't over index on something. Like I think like I could just keep making flex videos, which I think I'm going to repurpose my TikTok primarily for that, and just be like right after this, I'm going to shoot a video, I'm going to flex at it, I'm going to show my art. Great. And I'm going to let TikTok just be for that. And then Instagram, I think I'm going to do a lot more stuff where I'm like talking about my process, kind of trying to get people in on the story of what it is that I'm working on and all this stuff. So yeah, that's kind of my thought. Again, hard to say if that makes too much sense, but just stop. Yeah, okay. This is going to be a lot of pain on this guy. Trying to figure out what I should do for the clouds. I think, again, I want like kind of 3 or 2 levels of texture here. This is like very textured. There's a lot going on. As we recede, it's going to be less and less. I think right here and right here will still retain a good amount of texture. I think that's a nice flow if we have textured bits, and then this cloud is going to be the most textured, and everything else is going to be a little bit less. I think that'll flow nicely, which is some interesting tension with what's going to be the most detailed element of the painting, which is going to be this. So yeah, we'll see. That one came off wrong. Why did that happen? There we go. Cool.
Getting dreamier by the minute. That's good. Okay.
Oh yeah, I like that. All right, cool. That might be it for now. I'm gonna reflect on what it is that we've done here. So I appreciate you guys joining. TikTok is probably best for flexing for sure. That's how I found you on live, but save for the art. The art, yes, good. Yeah, I think I'm just gonna like let TikTok be a catch-all. I'm gonna post flexing and just be like, yeah. I am gonna pivot to my fitness Instagram being a little bit more educational, probably less of that like aesthetic fitness flex stuff. I'll probably still like I have gotten good engagement, and I think people do actually really resonate when I shoot a video like this where I have art in the background and I'm like, yeah, so today I worked out and did this, and this is why you should do this other strategy. I think people resonate with that, and I think thinking about my like the clients I already have for fitness, I can see how they would get value out of it. I don't think they necessarily want me to be like flexing the whole time and it's super aesthetic, but I think it helps. So, yeah. Anyway, thanks so much for joining. I really do appreciate it. I hope you guys have a good Friday. I'm going to be trying to go live again. I might shoot for Sunday morning is my aim for that, because tomorrow, I might paint tomorrow morning actually. Yeah, we'll see. Maybe I'll do a PM stream tonight. Kind of depends if I get up to hanging out with some friends. And yeah, tomorrow should be good. I'm going to go to jiu-jitsu after I hit the gym with my mom. That should be fun. So yeah, anyway, thanks for joining. Appreciate it. See you guys later.